Okay.
So, I mean, he's here, but he asked me to do it that way. So I
All
figure
right. Now, how
after
do I
hearing
add
your
you,
report,
Mr. Rao? Here we go. There we go.
there we go. I couldn't change it. That's great.
Good to see you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So it was really, really important that we got the GPRC, the Global Peace and Restoration Consortium, set up today. There's a lot of things happening. And, you know, now we're large and in charge. There's some notifications that went out. So, Mr. Rao, would you like to go through the, how do you say, local news or the whole
Nope.
news? Which one do you want to go through first?
Oh, so what I think we should do. I think I wanted to mention that specifically. Why don't you start with what you said? What happened today with the United Nations? Because I think everybody's familiar that the charter for the United Nations was removed. At least everybody in our world. But today you made a very big move that I think is a game changer. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Okay, so we all know about, we've heard about Agenda 21, we've heard about all these different agendas that have been going on. And I've talked about like the non-compete plan and the complete change of charter of the United Nations in 1975. Well, one of the things that has been circulating around a little bit is about a new world order agenda where they divide the world into areas, right? Some say 7, some say 9, but that came to our attention again. So what we actually did earlier this morning, based on that information and some other information and back chatter and things that were going on, it appears that they're still trying to, you know, create this one world government under themselves, and everybody's pretty much ignoring them except for themselves. So we thought that we would just wrap it up tight, and we sent out every directive that left the United Nations since 1948 has been completely revoked and terminated. All programs have been terminated. So there's no hope of money coming from the UN, IMF, World Bank, any of these people, not like we were paying the bill anyway in the first place, but just in case they wanted to lie, cheat, and steal, which the cabal like never does, right? They never do those things. So we sent out every single directive as terminated with a cover letter stating that the United Nations is now defunct and that has been replaced by the Global Peace and Restoration Consortium of member states, and more information to come as far as directives and new things that will come out. Now, this went to every agency, every military, and every national archives in the world. You're sharing your screen, Tank?
Yeah, so this is what it was based on, right? These are some of the things that these goals included, right? That you just...
Yeah, but if you go up to the first picture, it was a letter that crossed my desk. It talked about by 2025, there would be, you know, so many regions of the world, the countries would lose their name, their face, the US would crash. The crash of the entire world would be led by the United States, which they're doing a really good job at trying to make that happen. So,
and so most people would be, I mean, a lot of people are very overwhelmed, and they always talk about this. I feel like they're pushing this manifestation in a lot of ways because of what's happening, and what they see is happening, right? But what's very encouraging to me and to anybody who's part of Life Force is all the things that are actually going on behind the scenes. So to have these orders completely, in other words, they're not funded. When they get this notice, what is
the reason why this started circulating again today is because of the shenanigans that happened at the end of last week. So we had in the news, Biden turning power over to Kamala Harris, right? For a short period of time while he underwent a colonoscopy, which was far too much information for me and gave me a really bad visual. But that's okay. So anyway, the reason for that is because none of the budgets are getting ratified. None of the bills are getting paid. And they thought that the reason for that is because Biden isn't really Biden, right? So they thought they better get someone to sign off on it who is really that person, right? So they picked Kamala. So Kamala had all the executive orders all ready to go and everything, and they were all sent in and they were all rejected as well. And so I sent a message off to one of my friends that works with these people. And I said, just so you know, this administration, the entire administration, is not even ratified. Half of Congress isn't even ratified. Half the governors are not even ratified. And more importantly, the last administration wasn't even ratified. We played along with the game there for a while, but they, not ratified. So we really haven't had a president in quite a while. And we don't have one now. What we have is the Space Force making a complete catastrophe of the United States. So that didn't work out. So what they did is they thought that they would go back into archives and find things that had already been ratified that could still be in effect and effective today. Hence this 2025 order of New World Order thing. And they thought maybe that would work. And they got the opposite. So there'll be no bill paid for this agenda, this 1975 program of depopulation and, all the other things. And we can put that letter up on the chats a little later if you want, Tank, for people to see. I just don't want to share screen given what happened the last time.
Yeah.
It was fun though.
Yeah, it was. That was great. This is kind of an important side note on that. So when you say President Biden is not really Joe Biden. Joe Biden has been in a coma underneath the White House, and that is General Hayden
or
Biden
someone,
costume, or someone like that.
Other people have played the role as well, yeah.
So they put Kamala Harris in for like a day or 2 days, thinking she's going to register the stuff and get the global genocide agenda approved. Basically, or at least for the United States, that was the plan.
So I guess we'll talk about people news first. Okay, so on the 18th of November, there was a lot of chatter on the internet about the Treasury Department, right? That the Treasury Department was going to, this is the day they go broke, all of these types of things, bad things are going to happen. Well, everybody got sick and unable to come into work on the 18th. So Definitely. As a protest against Yellen for her crazy practices, they're still trying to cash in hysterical bonds or historical bonds and whatnot to float the country, historical treasury notes. BlackRock played a big part in that. They made a lot of promises as well. BlackRock is obviously Black Sun, right? It is part of the Black Sun organization, and they were tied to an international program, which I forgot to even write in my notes, called SIGINT, SIGINT. And if you look it up, it'll tell you it's from Israel, right? However, BlackRock was using this to maintain a large intelligence network, not only in the banking system, but also throughout the world, as far as buying and trading sovereign debt mainly. They did a lot of bonds, and we're going to go into what bonds are and why it's important to understand why we're not participating in this program. But bonds are bindings, and we'll go into further detail about that. But that system went down this week, or last week, I should say, as well. And they were unable to cash their bonds, which they thought the money was coming on the 18th, right? So flash forward to today and usher in the Chinese elders, okay? Now,
before you get to Chinese elders, so the bonds they were going to try to cash in.
Mm-hmm. BlackRock
was going to try to do this. So was this inclusive of the COVID bonds that everyone thought they were getting paid on? Did they think
all kinds of sovereign debt? Some of the COVID bonds included that they were going to pay out on. The U.S. government is basically out of money. They've gotten a little bit of money here and there from corporate sponsors, but that's not even enough to pay the bill for toilet paper. So required in federal buildings.
Which is required, yeah. So this, now back in 2007, Marduk actually cut off the birth certificate bonds. So they couldn't redeem those.
Stop buying them.
Yeah, he stopped buying them. That took about 9 months, I think you said, to around there.
Crash the market.
To crash the market. That's why you had the major market crash in 2008.
Yep.
So now this is something similar that they haven't been able to redeem the bonds currently since about March, I think, right? Because you cut that off.
Right, but they thought that they could create kind of a new sort of system using SIGINT to create a global trading government network for full government control, which is what BlackRock's agenda was. Okay. Right. Now, there's still this thing going on between the Rothschildian group, which is your Chinese, right? And part of the Black Sun group, which is the Black Dragon in China. And it's going, you know, everybody's wanting world domination. The United Nations is predominantly ruled by Rothschild, Ital, the dragon families. So we obviously saw the United Nations play this week. And they're all vying for control over the members of the order who would be considered under them in both groups. Okay. So currently at this moment in time, we have lots of generals, retired generals, unseen generals in Switzerland. And the Chinese are going to cash the bonds that they were given, what, a year ago. We've been talking about this, right? Here we go again.
It's happening.
Now, how are they going to do this? It gets worse. Okay. And this is just one of the things in the last 24 hours. Things are moving really, really rapidly right now. And we are really at war. So let's talk about the Chinese part. So people talk about Wuhan labs, and they talk about Wuhan labs with the coronavirus, right? The release of the coronavirus, blah, blah, blah. And maybe in part, that might be true, right? There's all kinds of biological weapons at the Wuhan lab. That is a Black Sun laboratory, 1000% meant for genetic manipulation. Okay.
Right.
So the Wuhan lab also had a lot of neat technology that was given to them by others back in the day when they were participating in certain programs, right? Or forced to in some cases, and some are no longer with us, and so on and so forth. We know who that is. So Wuhan lab is still very, very active in trying to regain their status. So they lost a lot of particle accelerators. They lost a lot of equipment that was being used to attempt to create databases, control archons within the vaccine people, for one reason or another, or sprayed on people. That's another issue too. And so this today, though, is a special day where it's a very high energy day normally for us humans. So they were trying to extract that energy from the plasma plane through the solar plexus, and they were using it to open up a portal or wormhole to give our loosh to the Abraxas and to the Draco. So apparently we have, and so we found out, there's a rogue group of Draco that had left, were exiled actually from the planet after the death of Anu a couple years ago, and they're back. Well, they were back. They're not here anymore. They're not anywhere anymore. So,
but pirates, no.
Right. But they were helping this group in China, right? I wouldn't say that I'm not blaming the Chinese in any way, because this is the Order of the Black Sun laboratory. Now, it doesn't matter if you're American, Russian, or whatnot, you still are welcome there. Okay. So that didn't work out. That was all shut down earlier this morning, taken care of. And then after that, they decided to try to enrich something called iridium. Iridium is used in alchemy, and it's used in a number of different things, but it's only one component, and I won't get into that because we don't want to help our enemies, right? And there was this rogue group of Draco generals were trying to charge the uridium in order to create more havoc here on Earth. So that also went away. They enlisted the help of the Japanese with this task, and this was just a few hours ago. So why and how were the Chinese going to pay out on the bonds where the generals are sitting in Switzerland and the Treasury Department's getting money tomorrow and the elders are in Reno and the thing's all working out? Why? Because they would have sold us back into slavery, into these two groups that have done nothing but torture us for thousands of years, okay? So they thought that if they could gain favor with these two groups, that they could actually get control of the financial system or the back system or get money. They promised to pay them for it and whatnot. Well, none of that worked out. So everybody's still sitting in wherever, Switzerland and all these other places, waiting for money to come out. That's never going to happen. Never going to happen. It's not going to happen for a multitude of reasons. Number one, the people who are expecting the money are going to use said cash to burn us all. Okay. That's number one. And I'll go over the laundry list of the reasons why I know that firsthand. So number two, these same people, these Chinese people who everybody thinks is benevolent, nobody knows the name of any one of them, right? Never met anybody. I have personally, and I know what these people do. So you're in a laboratory, you're releasing biological weapons on humanity, right? They're talking about new ones. They're also talking about micronovas, and we'll go over that in a few on what that is and how it's done exactly. Okay. Well, minus the chemical components and the metallic things required to make said event happen. But the point is, this is what they're doing to us. So you can fault me all you want if you happen to be watching this and you're sitting in Switzerland in a bar right now drinking.
She doesn't know what she's talking about.
Yeah, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Well, we'll leave it at that. So this is your benevolent Chinese elders who are going to be funding your purported money out. I think it's on the 24th or something. Is when the people are supposed to get their money, and the generals and the bonds are already paying out. The bonds aren't paying out. BlackRock hasn't paid out crap. They don't have anything to pay out crap. They lost their system. They had to lose their system because I am not letting human beings who may or may not have nanobots inside their person, okay, get attached to a system to which they can push a button and make you crazy and push a different button to cut off your lifeline. That's not going to happen. So fault me all you want. I don't really care. Like me or hate me, it doesn't really matter. But if you know about something, willful ignorance is a crime, right? If you know something is happening and you do absolutely nothing to fix it, that's a crime. Yep. So I analyze everything before I do anything. I make sure that it's, not a bad thing. I wasn't going to let these people lie, and I wish they would stop with the worship of other humans from other places. And they think they're smarter and they're going to help. And since when did the Draco ever really help us do anything? That ship was eliminated by the enforcer immediately within 10 minutes of a ruling in court. We did go to court with the Queen. She explained that they were a rogue group, that they were exiled. They wanted to follow Anu's and Marduk's plan. And they weren't welcome there. And I said, well, what should we do with them? Because they're affecting, this is what they're doing. And she just leans forward. I mean, she's enormous. This lady's big. She just leans forward and goes, kill them all. So
I like her. That's
yeah.
So this is a rogue group of Draconians that got eliminated from the planet because after Anu left and Marduk left back in 2016. So
yeah, but what's worse, okay. So I'll go back to, do you want me to finish people news, or do you want me to go back to other news? I've got a lot of news.
I know you do. So just come back, because it's just you and me today. So let's just make sure we really make this point. So come back to Wuhan real quick. So you said that Wuhan is for a long time, it's been a lab to manipulate DNA.
That's why Obama was welcome. That's why Fauci was welcome. These pictures are all over the place. I'm really not telling you anything you don't already know, and you put the pieces of the puzzle together and you figured it out, right? So
but you did say this though, you were talking about it's not just genetic manipulation the way most people think. You're talking about
CRISPR
and other things,
mRNA, CRISPR programs, all kinds of programs, things you've never heard of, programs, Archon programs, virus programs. I mean, you name it, they had it. So now, like I said, everybody's going to turn around and say, well, the Chinese are bad. No. Okay. We got just as many Americans in my notes here. We got the Russians in here. We've got the Saudis in here. We've got everyone in here. So do not think that this is a Chinese problem. It's not a nation problem. Okay. Because there's all this talk about US going to war with China. That's little stuff compared to the real war that's happening right now. So,
and half the Chinese elders aren't Chinese, right? I mean, half the Chinese elders or so-called Chinese elders aren't even Chinese. They
That is correct.
Various other races. They sit on the 5-star trust, most of them that are actually over, the Chinese elders. And there's 32 members, I believe, and half of them are white Rothschilds, without question. Just for the record. Sorry,
yeah, there's Blue Dragons, and then there's the Iranians are in there, Khomeini, all those people, those are all part of the same group, singing the same hymn. Guptas, all the big names we all know and love, right? But they're small potatoes compared to what's really going on. And I just want to make that point clear. So I'll finish the rest of the a part of the people update, because I do want to focus a little bit more on bonds and bindings and energetic bindings, and all of these things are tied together, and political insurance, and why the country is about to go bankrupt. Okay. Because you have to explain this to the people that are watching this also, not only you guys, but it's important that these other people actually understand this as well, because they don't understand what's happening and what's going on. And if the US falls, the dollar falls. If the dollar falls, every country falls, right?
Yep.
If every country falls, now they're going to install the UN agenda of UN substations all over the world. We'll post that paper up. It's public information. It's not, part of it is and part of it's not. And it's being circulated all throughout politics all over the world, right? This is the agenda. You're going to be this and you're going to be that, making all kinds of promises that they never, ever, ever keep. And they will never, even if they had the capacity right now, let's just say both factions, right? The Black Sun and the Rothschilds had the money right now. They still wouldn't be paying you people,
never pay
right?
Right.
And they certainly wouldn't be paying anybody that's sitting on this call with us right now. And I'm sorry, but they never paid you when they had access.
For everybody out there who thinks that they are part of the plan and part of the group that gets saved, you are the equivalent of the bell cow, right? You take the most obedient cow in the herd, you put a bell on that cow, and then that cow thinks it's important. And when the farmer calls, the bell cow goes walking, the bell starts ringing, and all the other cows follow behind it. That's the equivalent of what all of these, the hierarchy of the order is. You're nothing. Yeah. They don't care about you at all. And they will kill you off too. Just for the record. You'll still be steak is my point.
All right. So, all right, let's talk about a few other things that are going on and just the regular people news. And then we'll tie it all together as to how this affects everyone. Right. All right. So we have JP Morgan that pulled out from funding Trump this week. Right. There was an argument kind of in mainstream media touched on it. But the background behind it is that once Flynn left, everybody else started jumping ship. And the majority now of the military is not behind him and what he's doing now that they have a knowledge of what he's actually doing. And we're given that knowledge. But there's more to the story than that. Yeah. Well, we'll get into that here in a minute because it's a long string of events that have happened in the last 2 weeks. So the point is they figured out you can't, let's just say, commit global genocide and then declare yourself the good guy and you're saving the world, right?
Right. Wow. It works like that, huh? You can't kill everybody off and then be like, I heroically came in to save everyone.
Well, create the problem, be the solution, right? That is the CIA's motto. It's right underneath, their little logo, I think, right?
I think
if not, it should be.
It should
create the problem, be the solution. Create the problem, be the solution, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Central Intelligence Agency. Good work.
So that being said, so says some of the military, not all of the military, because if it was all of the military, the people wouldn't be over in Switzerland cashing bonds from Chinese elders that are also trying to commit global genocide. Just today. Matter of fact, since last night.
They really, after all this, still thought, you know what, we have a shot here. We're going to pull this off.
Well, this is the problem, right? This is savior syndrome, just on a different level. It's not looking at another human as a savior. You're looking at it's like someone with the family name Rothschild, right? Everybody thinks, oh, Rothschilds, you think money, you think wealth, you think
they're so powerful, so important.
You think lots of things that come into your head, right? But it doesn't mean that everybody with that name You know, maybe there's some people that hadn't gone through the program that happen to have that name somewhere. I don't know. Yeah, I've never met anybody, but that doesn't mean there isn't anybody. But just because you're from another place or you have advanced technology or whatever, right, doesn't mean you're helping. And even when people say, I'm the good guy, we're going to help you. We're going to take the care of this for you. Does that mean they're actually going to do it? Well, they didn't do it 16,000 years ago when this whole mess started. What makes these people think today's the day that these are now your friends? Because they were never your friends before, right? But now, you know, they're looking for a savior. They need someone else to save them because they are not like us. We can actually think for ourselves. We can plan for ourselves. We can actually be creative. We can manifest things and so much more that we're going to learn in the very near future when we're not being genetically manipulated constantly, right? Or they're throwing etherical weapons or electromagnetic weapons, which we'll go into in a minute. That would also happen in the last couple of weeks. So a few days ago, if you were feeling sadness or dread or what is going on, I have no energy, no motivation, we will tell you exactly why, right? And it will make sense. Yesterday, you were probably feeling really great, right?
Yes,
had a lot of energy, feeling good, feeling happy, singing, dancing. And then boom, by this morning when you woke up, you went back to, oh my God, what's going on? I don't feel good. You know, oh, I don't feel like doing that chores or whatever. You're going to work. That's why. Okay. All right. So
Kim, before you jump, because I just want to, so just because we're having a lot of new people come and listen to Life Force calls. So when you're talking 16,500 years ago, you're talking about a time when there was, I guess, post like the Great Deluge, but there was, you know, it was after a major war, right? So you had a grieving population. Is that accurate? Like there was a grieving population and kind of the Draco kind of swooped in. And
well, Earth's history did not go back to the biblical times, right? That's just recent. You know, this big rock has been around for a long time. We've had many civilizations cohabitating here, coming and going and whatnot for a long period of time. There was a fight about 150,000 years ago on Earth in our time, because time really doesn't exist. In our time, and that's how we got deserts, and we got a lot of different things, and a lot of folks that resided here ran for cover, went underground, right? Now, flash forward to that time, the way that they signed a peace agreement was they had 5 groups of humans in 5 different areas of the world, or 5 different tribes that were supposed to represent each one of the groups that wanted to own planet Earth. They divided the Earth into sections, and the humans were the caretakers. Okay.
Right.
And then 2 of the groups started to fight. And that was about 16,500 years ago. 2 of the groups started to fight. And one of them called in the Draco. So
this is
for help
for savior syndrome.
Here we go again. Does this sound familiar? They called in because they needed technologies,
right,
to win the war.
Right. So this
now,
is
what did the Chinese do this week? They called them in for technologies to win the war. Wow, it's so much better now than it was 16,500 years ago, don't you think?
Same progress.
You know? I mean, we're still unearthing civilizations everywhere that the governments hide from us. I mean, they found cell phones that were, you know, carbon dated back to God knows when. You know, I mean, this is not anything new. It's just hidden from us, right?
Right. And so a lot of times people will portray these groups as being so far superior to us that we need their help. But in reality, they're just more advanced in their, you know, genealogy, I guess, right? But in reality, we have the ability to do these things ourselves, is what I always hear you talk about, right? So I think that's really important to define for people, because when we talk about savior syndrome, people will reach out to something outside of themselves instead of looking within themselves to figure out, what can I do, right?
The problem is that the plan that they're following is not a viable plan without some kind of genetic, electromagnetic, plasma, or etherical manipulation of mankind. It is not possible to control us. Not to say that we can't, you know, act for ourselves and do things for ourselves, right?
Right.
But they need to have total control. Why? I have no idea.
Well,
so
they're trained that way. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Let's go back to where we're at today. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the real war that's going on here. And it's not a war between two countries. Wars between two countries are easy. That's all theater. It's all planned out ahead of time. We already know the winner before it even begins. They don't care how many soldiers they kill in the process. That's just what they do, right? The ultimate outcome has already been predetermined, pre-planned. Nobody's actually fighting a war. If you think you are, you're crazy. If you're a general and you're in the game, you know it. If you don't know it, then why did they send you all over the place looking for WMD that doesn't exist, right? Why did they do this? Why did they send you to a country where you think they're doing something that they're not actually doing? When you arrive there, you know it, but you fight the war anyway because you're told to fight the war and not question orders, right?
Right. Yep.
Okay. So right now, we talked about this a few weeks ago, but I'll reiterate. There is a ridiculous amount of ships watching the Hunger Games, basically,
Yeah.
right?
Well said,
It's
yeah.
entertaining, but we've also made so much progress against some of these infections and races and whatnot that people are really interested to see how we did it, what's going on, and they want to watch this final battle. So on November 18th, you officially chose your side. Okay. And these are people that are in the game that actually know. What that means was if you're on the light side, you're on the light side. If you're on the dark side, you're on the dark side, right? Line has been drawn. The battle has begun. And that's it. And this battle will rage on till probably sometime around the 22nd or so of December by guessing. Okay. No flipping sides, no doing whatever, no saying you didn't know, not when you're playing on this level, right?
So this is a whole new level of defining where everyone stands, because they, at this point, whatever you have backed, no matter how many times you've lied, there's no going back. They've been given every opportunity. It is what it is. If you've supported this genocidal agenda, you know, on a higher level, then there's no excuse at this point. That's
yep.
Exciting times.
So, all right. So it's also called the Day of Destiny, where you chose your destiny. So now we're battling it out, right?
That's fun.
Okay.
You didn't tell me that catchphrase. That's cool. The Day of Destiny. Yeah.
It's also called the Day of Destiny. So a lot of the battles that have been going on are predominantly with human beings that are here, like your secret Space Force, not the one you see on TV. I'm talking about the Space Force that's actually done things, you know, the one that DARPA fronts for and all that kind of thing, right? So what they didn't realize is that prior to the Day of Destiny, on the 18th, is that we had been moving all the chess pieces.
Correct.
So while they were busy, you know, trying to manipulate this and do COVID ID, you know, COVID ID, certificate of vaccination identification database systems, and all of these other things, we have been taking all the pieces off the board. So by the time we hit the 18th and the battle lines were drawn, they had next to nothing left. Very, very little. Okay, so we have been battling a few little things over the last few days, but it not nearly as bad as it could have been for us had we not taken the steps that we had taken. So let's talk about a few things that they're doing. So for their big move for the last few days, they have been putting out tremendous amount of fear porn, both in the alternative media and in the mainstream media. So the mainstream people, you know, the numbers are going up, this is happening, and how to have a safe Thanksgiving, and, you know, mask your turkey. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Probably, right? Santa can't come because the COVID vaccine, thank God he got his passport, you know, it's in the news.
In Louisiana, they said when the hurricanes were coming, the best thing you could do is get a vaccine, because as we all know, vaccines help stop hurricanes as well. It's amazing.
It does make you bulletproof and windproof as well.
Yeah, gives you superpowers.
Right, and it helps you float.
Yep, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's just great. Yeah. Yeah, you could fly probably. You know,
probably. I mean, you just have to test if you're going to test the limits. And if you get a fourth shot, I mean, forget about it.
Oh yeah, it's on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Comes with a cape and tights too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Okay. Well, they're giving out everything else. All right. So let's talk about that. So they're talking about now they're pushing the narrative again about the Marburg virus. So I will repeat myself. Since 1963, there have been 4 known cases in the world of Marburg's virus. And none of the 4 patients actually died.
Oh. Well, they said it has an 88% death rate. That's what they said. But you're saying it has a 0% death rate, actually.
In the 4 known diagnosed cases on planet Earth.
Now, is that the same as monkeypox? Because I heard about that one. Is it a different name?
No, it's probably a new one. Yeah.
So that's probably coming to a theater near you as well.
Right. Yeah, I heard about that one in probably a couple of days.
That one's
just
fun.
been busy.
Like that one will catch on. That's a lot more like, oh, well, watch out for the monkeypox.
Right. So the next thing that everybody's talking about is something called a micronova, right? Where basically the sun radiates the earth and all of these types of things, and we're all going to die again. You know, we're always going to die, or all going to die, you know? Yeah. So let me explain to you the sun. Okay. We all know the sun is a star. I'm going to break this down for the people sending out the fear porn. So the sun is a star. A star is made of plasma. Okay. Plasma fields can be influenced in multiple different ways by combinations of metals and carbons and all kinds of different things, right? Both positively and negatively. Okay. Now, is a black hole a natural occurrence of a dying star? The answer to the question is no, because when stars are not being run on loosh and they're being run naturally by source energy, it is abundant, just like it is abundant in your person. Okay. So is that a naturally occurring thing? No, it's not. Is a micronova a naturally occurring thing? No, it's not. Does the sun occasionally throw up solar flares for no reason? The answer to the question is not naturally. Okay. So is there an unnatural plan to try to create this scenario? Yes, I would imagine there was. Did someone possess this technology they had been looking for called a star maker, right? It's also a star breaker, by the way. It's like a superconductor of source. It's a way to manipulate ether, plasma, all kinds of different things. It's how they created black holes, right? Which then would get sucked into the black side of the universe. And then, you know, right. So anyway, so to answer your question, is it possible? The answer to the question is yes. Do we know about it? Yes. Are we monitoring the situation carefully? Yes. Do we believe that unless they got outside help from someone that possesses the technology to achieve this task, will it happen? The answer to the question is no. It would have to be done with a technology by a maleficent force.
So basically, this idea of this micronova, which could be catastrophic, is the report. Really, a micronova doesn't occur unless some kind of outside source intervenes to create some disruption of the plasma that creates the sun, right? So with a lot of people, there's a lot of groups out there that are channeling different entities and speak to different galactics, and they'll often confirm like, oh, there's going to be this micronova. So is it because they're deceived, perhaps, that these other groups, maybe they don't realize what it's causing it? Or is it because they're part of the deception?
Well, we have a lot of people that are rooting for us, right?
Sure. A lot of people rooting against, I'd imagine.
Right. And everybody, you know, okay, so like when you're a parent, right? there's different ways of parenting. You can parent your children by spanking them and putting them in timeouts and putting them in the corner, or you can parent them by rewarding them and whatnot, right? So there are people that have misinformation about human 7.0, which is where we're at right now, okay? And that we have to be, if we get comfortable, we will relax and sit back and wait. Some of us do, right? Fair enough. And so the information, is it coming? It could be coming, right? But what is fear? It's breaks down to false, what is it? What is that idioism?
Not sure.
False events appearing real.
Oh, that's a good one.
Thank you.
False events appearing real.
Couldn't think about it for a second. Sorry.
Yeah.
Off the cuff. But anyway, the point is that, is it possible? Yes, it's definitely possible. Do they have the humans here without interference have the technology to do this? They may or may not have had until about a week and a half ago, right? So let's talk about something. I've only seen this explained properly, but not entirely, by one other person. And it's a person that, you know, always talks bad about me, so fine, you know. Okay. But anyway, but we can mention it. It was, I can't remember, it was one of Cliff High's woo videos. I don't really watch his stuff very much, but I did find one, and he explained the electromagnetic, etherical and plasma field that is created. And it's important to understand how this worked, right? So, all right, so let's just say this is the sun, and this is Mercury. Obviously, we're not to scale here, and over here would be Earth, right? Okay, so there are only 2 times a year, although Mercury usually circles the sun every about 40 some odd days, right? But there's only a couple times a year, and it happens in November and again in May, where this perfect alignment with the nodes pointing in the right direction at the right time all align, okay? And this here, they use this technology on Mercury. They use the plasma from the sun, plasma energy from the sun, to create, which activates this node and then this node, and then that creates a secondary conical situation here on Earth. Now, Mercury is, everybody talks about there's nothing on Mercury, all this stuff. Oh, that's a load of crap. Okay, Mercury was a trading post, a stopping point. When you came through the Stargate, right? There was like a way station or a trading area here on Mercury.
Wow.
Now, there was a lot of technology on Mercury. Some could generate archons. It could do lots of different things, okay? Which are your parasites, which are your viruses, which is why, you know, we see upticks and different things that are happening, and we have energetic feelings that happen a few times a year. So they had an intention, or tried to actually, during this alignment that happened, I think it's around the 10th of November. If I'm off by a day, don't, you know, shoot the messenger. I can't remember. Right. And they tried basically shooting a massive electromagnetic plasma field on the planet, which was causing us all kinds of problems, right? Headaches, illnesses, stomach problems, you know, really putting it to us. And this is no longer. So that has been taken care of. Although that alignment will still probably happen a couple of times a year, there's really nothing much left on there now. So the Archon infection there has been cleaned up. Most of the technology has all been disabled and dismantled, but it did a lot of other different things. And we're still experiencing, because it takes a few days for that to clear completely, for it to reach Earth and then be cleared, right? So
is that Mercury? Is that why people always talk about Mercury retrograde? Is that what was happening?
The planet of communications.
Yeah. So that was, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So basically the idea behind Mercury.
The god of commerce, that guy.
Wow.
Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Right. Okay. So we found that during that alignment. Let's see. Powered by the sun. Got that. Okay. Going through all my notes here. All right. Now, other things that it did that we found as well as a result. We saw a lot of, since Mercury was a trading post, right? It led us to some other information which talked about degeneration of cells.
Oh, this is huge information right here.
Right. So the back system is a little part in there that was tied to some of this stuff that on Mercury and was in regard to the sale of loosh, right? Or our energy. Okay. Right. So there's only so much loosh you can take from a human, energy you can take from a human. So, or the body will rapidly degenerate, right? So you need to take enough for them to have commerce through Mercury.
Right.
But not enough so that there's too much degeneration before more people are born and then, reach the age of 7 or 8 or whatever else, right? So through various bonds and whatnot, there was a binding that happened. Bonds are binding. A bond is binding, right? So they actually had in the foci field, FOCI, of your cell, something that would prevent nutrients from getting in, something that would, so you would degenerate. Well, they could remove that. So when cells regenerate, they multiply, right?
Right.
Just like when a child is, you're first pregnant and, you have one cell and then it breaks apart. It goes back to source, right? Disappears for a second, comes back as 2. So everything is recreated through your solar plexus area. Hence this connection, this binding in that particular zone.
That's a really fascinating point, by the way, for anybody watching this. That is not speculation, what Kim just said. That is not her interpretation. That is actually what happens when you see the science. They actually have video of this happening where when they have the cellular mitosis, I think it's called, right? It literally disappears before there's 2.
Right.
Which is one of the things they can't explain in the physiology of human beings, generally. So what she's saying is this goes back to source to regenerate, because that's how our natural toroidal fields generate. Something like that, right, Kim?
Right. People talk about I know my stick figures, aren't they great? Okay.
Good,
so Tank, we should probably give you the whiteboard and I'll just dictate, right? So your solar plexus area is your heart center. That is the place where source comes in and out. So in a normal flow, okay, all your cells of your body will actually flow through this area. It's called the hepatic corridor. Am I saying that right? The hepatic
corridor. You're right.
Yeah. So, and then they would disappear for a second and they would regenerate. That's how normal human bodies work. However, when you have, and I think many of you have seen that symbol before, right? Before I drew the little human in there.
The Ankh.
Yeah, the Ankh. Okay. So very similar. That's why they say it died on the cross, right?
Right. Very similar.
Yep. So that being said, this is kind of an energetic binding situation when it came to our solar plexuses, which was then creating cellular degeneration. Because remember, time doesn't exist. Time is not our friend, it's their friend, right? So in order to loosh, you have to have a certain amount of degeneration of the body. So there was actually a degeneration regulator.
Wow.
Yep.
I mean, this goes back to like I think it's called the actuarian tables that you see in insurance, right? They basically have a lifespan and then they have all types of statistics that they keep on people to say, this is what will happen to 10% of the people. Like 10% of the people will die from cancer and 80% will die from heart attacks, something like that, right? Like these actuarian tables, because they set our lifespan to be just limited enough so that we could generate enough life force energy that they could drain off, but then limited us so we couldn't generate enough to take over. So basically like something like chemotherapy, for example.
Mhm.
Now, right before they introduced chemotherapy, there was 45 plus scientists who discovered that vitamin B17 would, create a binding arsenic and dispose of the cancer into the body. But instead, they brought over all the Nazi scientists and they introduced the AMA, that was the long, slow death program. Because think about it, you make a lot of money that way, and then you keep us at a limited level, just barely functioning for our whole life, basically. That was the goal. So
Great.
right. Yeah, awesome for them. Yeah.
Right. So in order to achieve this task, right, our cells get to exist, but they don't get to, they're oxidizing, there was all kinds of different things that was happening as a result of them taking this part away from us.
Right.
So that has been restored, and we are at about, I think it's about 74% regeneration at the moment, since this is not a binding issue anymore.
Compared to what were we before?
Oh, negative something or other. I mean, we were going down. I mean,
Wow.
Yeah.
So they were rapidly aging us, which really ages an illusion. I mean, we generate brand new cells every 7 years, so we shouldn't be getting older. I mean, in 7 years is an illusion, right? I don't know.
Well, your body changes every 7 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I previously thought, but ever since I started thinking about this in terms of time is an illusion.
Yeah.
And that's what Einstein said, that time is an illusion that postpones things from happening which have already occurred.
Yep, it's true.
So now we're not degenerating. Well, as much. I mean, clearly,
Right. Well, it's the reason why the Gnostics, they worship Egypt and all that other crap, and there's symbolisms and whatnot everywhere, and you just got to find it. But anyway, we found these because we kept coming up with level 1 and level 2 tissue degeneration, and we couldn't figure out why we were having that issue. And that's why we were having that issue, because it's just enough so they can get as much loose as they possibly could. Right. Yeah. But not enough to kill the batteries, so to speak, right? The generators. So, all right. So that also came up this week. Also tied to Mercury and, a few other technologies and whatnot. But there's an amoeba that they try to put there. It's like a energetic virus or so on and so forth that goes there. And every time they're trying to do something, you get that weirdo niggling feeling if you're really in tune with yourself, and you'll know when it was happening. So that is mostly gone. Hopefully the rest of it will be gone soon. Okay, so now let's talk about the Certificate of Vaccine Identification System number 700. And no, I'm just kidding. It's not that many, but it's quite a few. This is the third one from last week, right? So we have, everybody talks about CERN, it's a big deal. People talk about it. They just moved it to Australia, right? Big deal. Well, yes and no. The answer to the question is there are 13 different facilities under different names around the world. That there's a lot more than that, but these particular ones were designated to not only be particle accelerators, they were also designated to try to open up portals. That was their job.
Now, it was a long time ago, though, right? Or is that something that is, you said the technology is older, right?
Well, it never quite worked. But the reason why it doesn't work is because if you notice, they try to do it using the power of Lucifer, right? Satan. They kill babies in front of the thing and do all this weirdo stuff. Well, that's the opposite way of opening up a portal.
Huh. Right, because
that
would
is
make
the
us
opposite
look like
way you open a
freaking
portal.
lunatics.
I'm not going to help them out anymore. I'm sure you guys can figure that out, but we'll leave it at that. So it's failed to open up portals, but one thing it did manage to do was to generate synthetic forms of demons, because they failed to open the demon portal, right? So it's like an AI generated black dust looking thing, right? Which was kind of similar, but not quite as effective as the ones that they used to, that occurred naturally, I guess you would say, in the other side of the lower astral beings. But they were referred to as interferons. And they were, they were wreaking a little bit of havoc and whatnot. But most importantly, another certificate of vaccination identification database system existed in these 13 facilities. Okay. So imagine if they were tying the nanobots that are in the systems, the oxide and other compilations of metals, right, along with this system in their interferons. They could virtually inject this thing into you.
Wow.
I know. Aren't they great?
Injectable demons? Injectable synthetic demons. What's coming next from the deep state? Wow, that's...
That's actually from the Space Force and DARPA, right? So needless to say, those databases are gone. The facilities are non-functional. You know, as far as I know, we cleaned up most of the mess with the interferons, or whatever you want to call it, the energetic nightmare that we had going on, and we moved on, right?
Right.
But we're finding all of this stuff. It's important to understand we're finding all of these things because they're tied to the financial system. Every time we go to clear, we've done about, I don't know, 20 some odd test transfers in the last 2 weeks. And we find something like this every single time. So I know you guys think, well, I'm just sitting eating bonbons, not pushing buttons. But the reality of the situation is this is a lot more complicated than you think it is. So all of these things came up 100% in testing the financial system. Okay. All right. So next, DARPAs go down. Jump room in Crimea goes up. So it turns out the reason why Crimea was so important to have for the Russians is because it had a space station. Okay. And you can look that up. But it was a unique space station which possessed a unique technology for transmitting radio waves and electromagnetic frequencies and pulses to faraway places. So this 1970s, 80s odd piece of technology was reutilized this week to try to recreate a jump room so that they could go back to where they screwed it up. Thought that they could fix it. So that was yesterday, right?
Wait. So first, DARPA goes down. You said Crimea jump room goes up, and they're going to jump. What they think they're going to do is jump back in time.
Come on, Tank, do it.
jump back in time and fix the part where they messed up, and then come back, and they'll be in a better situation when they get here, right?
I'm just using my hands like you. I'm just following along with you.
Well, I'm excited. I get
the new TikTok dance challenge right there.
We're going to work that out.
Okay.
That music coming out.
Right. So now that was yesterday. Okay. That didn't work. That system didn't work either. And flash forward, today is China and the Japanese. So I have no idea what tonight's going to bring, guys, but that's what I've been doing this for the last 2 weeks. Now I expect this to continue like this until the 22nd. I really do. So yeah.
So now they're kind of fast tracking themselves to burn out as fast as possible. Kind of, that's what we're...
Well, the reason why I think that we're having conversations with more and more of the military, as I said, oh, we're going to talk about bombs and bills. Forgot about that. All right. So the reason why we're having this conversation is because with the military is because the Space Force has basically lost its space and force. So now they're just people.
There's nothing.
So yeah. So okay, it happened a day or two so ago. They basically woke up to the fact that when by the time the battle lines were drawn on the 18th, which was just a couple of days ago, that DARPA thing was gone. All the other systems were gone. The CERN things were gone. The particle accelerators were gone. The Mercury space station was gone. The way station was gone. Their quarantine happened. They're not getting any help from anyone here. And that's why the Chinese section of the Space Force thought that they'd do what they did. They did call the Russians when they lost their technology. Obviously, the Russians, decided to try to use that station. That was their input this week. And now it was the Chinese version of a very, very active Wuhan lab. So this is not the only one. There's, been a big one underneath Langley. We got Greenland, we're cleaning up some of those, the Antarctica one, cleaning up that one, they're all over the world. It's not, Paraguay was another one that doesn't exist anymore. So they're a little bit tricky, when you go in there and you try to do something. So the other people, we have people on the ground. We have life force enforcement in Greenland, and we have them also in Antarctica. They are getting rid of the ones there with pleasure, I was told. They're pretty, yeah. Well, they're tired of those people too. So, yep. So the real war that's taking place is on this level here. It is not between Trump and the bad guys. And yes, we do have issues with children going missing and lots of things that humans are just doing to humans, but it's all pretty much run by the same people, and these are the people that are worship. You think that some alien race is going to come save them instead of fighting a real war, because we are fighting a real war.
Right. So what is this something, Kim, that theoretically everybody's contributing to, that they can,
You can protect yourself, you can shield yourself. We tell you some of these things so you can learn to recognize those feelings of things that are going on in and around your person and around other people. You can protect your solar plexus area. Recognize when feelings are yours of anger, sadness, depression, these interferon thingies or whatever you want to call, that's what they called them. So I'm just using the same name. They try to put thoughts into your head of dread, like, oh, I'll never get the promotion. I'll never get the job. This will never happen. I'm wasting my time. We're never going to get anywhere, all those kind of things. So, just recognize when it's your thoughts and your feelings. Is it come like, why am I sad? My life is good. Or why, and then really focus on it and shield yourself, because you can protect yourself from external people trying to do harmful things to you. So
you also mentioned that today is a special alignment, a direct alignment with source. And you talked to us about this morning with the frequency that people can listen to help take advantage of that.
Yeah. I'll go over that part. So today is 11/22, right? And there's a lot of talk about it being golden gates and this and that, but essentially it is the beginning of the alignment with the central sun or source, right? The creator, the highest concentration of creator light in the multiverse, which is why they picked today to continue on with their plan, right? But for us, right, the frequency of this is 11/22, also 9999, right? And you can play that frequency and you can use that extra charge. It'll last for about another 24 hours or so. And you can use that charge to your own advantage, right? To shield up, to help you manifest things. And, just think about it like this is the warm, fuzzy energy we all wait for. You just got to tap into it, take it all in and manifest what you want to do. Holidays are coming up, you get a holiday in America next week and this week. Oh my God, turkey. I forgot,
I know.
Yeah, it's this week, couple days. Yeah. And that begins our crazy holiday season. So let's go into that with a lot of love and light and source energy and creator energy in our person. The only other thing I wanted to touch on, if you want to, we can talk about just for a couple minutes about why the financial system in the US is having a big problem right now.
Yeah, we should definitely talk about that.
Okay. Well, it's getting really bad. All right. So back in March, if you listen to us all the time, right? Back in March, we talked a lot about the fact that we cut off their credit lines. So the banks, unless they were liquid, they couldn't use their money magic credit line making system any longer in order to cash in, for example, COVID bonds that were issued in 2017 as one example, right?
Right.
And this is how the vaccine companies were making $1,000 a second and all this stuff. And then, now they've got treasury notes at $1,000 a second and other countries' bonds and whatnot, but they can't cash them yet. But they gave them all to BlackRock, right, who was supposed to use the SIGINT systems, SIGINT, in order to cash in all of the bonds, right? So this is a giant circle. Now, when that kind of fizzled out a little bit, the one thing that they would need is insurance, right? You do insurance wraps on bonds, they insure the bonds, and then they're supposed to be cashable. Well, the insurance companies have been giving money all along, right? Select insurance companies in the know to against these bonds a little bit, right? For things like vaccines and all kinds of things. We're not just we're talking about medical insurance. We're talking about a lot of different systems all tied together, right? Now, what happens when the insurance companies run out of money?
Everything crashes very fast.
Right. The insurance companies
in
become insolvent, right? Former bonds that were issued with an insurance wrap, such as the COVID bonds issued in 2017, right?
Right.
Former bonds that had insurance also will become worthless because your wrap becomes worthless because your insurance company is insolvent, right?
There's nobody to honor the bond, basically.
Right. Okay. Well, treasury notes also had insurance. Everybody has insurance. Well, when the only insurance company goes, the markets are going to go. Okay. That is the next thing you have to look for. Next thing is that the drop dead date, literally, okay, drop dead date, if nothing is done and somebody doesn't pull their head out of their area, right? Stop worshiping Uranus or something else, right?
You align it with Uranus.
Another planet, right? Another planet somewhere. It's insolvent. Everybody's going to be insolvent. The dollar is going to be insolvent. The country is going to be insolvent. Everybody is going to be insolvent.
What is the option then?
The option is?
Yep. Well, I'm just to clarify, because obviously you can't be too direct about these things with them because you've been giving them options for years.
Okay. So in the memo, and I can pull the memo up if you want and just read it out real quick.
Oh, that'd be
so
great.
In the memo, one moment, so I sent it out earlier today. Okay, so I'll read you the memo here from the United Nations. In accordance with the approval of the majority of the United Nations members, the following directive is in effect upon receipt and will be implemented immediately with the exception of those subjects or items that will obviously require additional time to change and or implement. All United Nations will forthwith be known by their new name and corresponding number. For instance, the former nation of Canada will now be known as America Area 0001. The former United States of America will now be simply known as America Area 0002. The former Central America, to include the former nation of Mexico, will now be known as America Central Area 0003. And the remainder of the former nations of South America will collectively be known as areas 0004, 0001, 0, and so on and so forth, right? And it goes on to list all of the designations.
Okay.
And it says, okay, so all new names for former nations within the various world continents are listed in the locations of the main United Nations control centers, also called UNCCs, which will administer all future government, administrative, military, and policing responsibilities. As of the 17th of March, 2025, the former United States of America has turned over their military and police forces to the United Nations for control and responsibility, and they will be disbanded or integrated into our global United Nations forces as soon as possible. The former United States of America, being the last nation to cede authority over to the United Nations Security Council, has created untold problems and delays for our United Nations plans and will soon feel the brunt of rapid and decisive changes to meet our scheduled goals of a unified and one world government. The entire executive branch of the former United States government is hereby dismissed, as our selected United Nations leaders will assume those duties with an approved administrative council who will assume those duties. The judicial branch is likewise dismissed immediately, as United Nations judges have been selected and we're waiting to assume that task. And it goes on to basically say, you know, the rest. But the point is that, okay, so what do we have going on right now? You can say, well, it's conspiracy theory, right? The US goes down, the dollar goes down. The dollar goes down, every nation currency in the world that's tied to the dollar, which is everyone, will also go down, okay? Currency will become worthless. Goods and services will cost ridiculous amounts of money. You think gas is expensive right now in the United States? You ain't seen nothing yet. And here we go, okay? Then they talk about global martial law. Well, if the US military, right, is the last one to concede by 2025, as shown by some looking glass, whatever, somewhere probably. Point is that what do we have going on right now? The military is deciding that they don't want this. They're fighting against it, right?
Right.
And we'll see. But the plan it was written in 1975. It was part of one of the directives that were canceled and notified. It was Directive 001, actually. It was one of the first directives of the new charter of the United Nations, written in 75. And that one has the addendums, the 2021, the this, the that, right? And they're going right in sync with the things, right?
Oh, they're right on schedule.
They're right on schedule.
They keep doing this, and despite ridiculous mountains of evidence coming out against everything they're trying to do. Yep. So now, this is something, Kim, we've talked about for a long time, with the police forces being under the control of the United Nations. And I actually saw the paperwork on this as directives came out in New York State that were given to a sheriff, to all the police here. And they were told by the Biden administration, they will begin implementing United Nations police force policies, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. Right? So this is not, I mean, this is something they've been gearing up to do. Obviously, it's not conspiracy theory. And you're saying this memo went out to all the various United Nations
member states
today?
But not today. The cancellation of every directive went to every nation to await further instructions. That's why it was perfect timing and important that we got the gprc.global website up and running, because people are going to be looking for who the hell is the GPRC because it's on the memo. So this went out to all the agencies, all the militaries around the world. It also went out to all the governments, national archives, and information is out there. You only have to know how to look for it. So we'll see if this comes, really, we're letting everybody know what's going on so they understand what comes next, right? So in the event that the government decides to stay on the tomorrow is another day ending in Y plan, get ready, assemblies, because if that happens, it's going to be up to us.
That's a big call to action, I'd say. Really, the option is they've chosen a side to kill all of us off.
Yeah. Plan, prepare, get ready, because I've been telling you about this for months, right? Put aside your squabbles, your arguments about Billy pulled my hair in the assembly meeting or something. Put it all aside, Tank's hands are too big, or why is he wearing a shirt? Please let it go. Let it all breathe deeply and let it go. If you don't like Tank's shirt or Kim's sweater or whatever, just let it go. Push it away, because we're going to be in deep shit if you don't. Can I say shit? I can say shit, right?
Yeah, it's our channel. You say whatever you want.
Well, We are going to be, and I'm serious, people, we're going to be in deep crap if we don't. Because I don't see them turning around anytime soon, unless the military actually comes forward and decides. They said they weren't going to block us. They said they're going to start unwinding the narratives. They would start seeing in the news tomorrow. I don't know. You know, I've heard all this before. Let's see what really happens. But I'm telling you right now, I'm laying it out for you. If you're with the military, you're with an agency, or with whoever, you are letting this happen. I just read you the memo. Go to the National Archives. All of them are in there as terminated and canceled. Every single directive since 1948. We took no chances. Okay.
So every single United Nations directive, including the entire cluster F that is built up to this implementation of the one world government, they have all been revoked or removed. They are no
longer at your agencies.
It's
at your military headquarters. It doesn't matter what country you're in. It's also in your National Archives. Look for the information. The plan is actually in there. Okay. It's in the 1975 section. Read it, learn it. Don't just believe what I'm saying to you. If you're with the government, find it for yourself. But if you look at what the plan says versus what I just told you is happening, the bonds are going down. The insurance companies are going down. The bonds that were previously issued that banks are still considering assets are going down. The insurance companies become insolvent. The bonds are useless, right?
Right.
And there's no CERN or Archon invasion or Draco race or Abraxas race or some alien from the planet Uranus is going to help you, right? I don't care. I'll fight this battle as long as you want me to fight this battle. I'm a damn good ground commander now.
Hell yeah.
I'm learning really well, right? We've got a great team.
Great.
We're working our butt off. We're doing more. You know, they've known about the Archons for years. They just didn't know how to get rid of them. Well, we figured it out. So you know what? If they don't care, I don't expect those people to change their mind. I think they're going to look for an alien from somewhere till the day they die, or jump off the planet or go somewhere. I really do. But for the militaries and the Secret Service and the whatever that is in the White House and in the parliaments and the Dumas and everywhere else, listen to me. You've got a shot here to fix your country. If not, we will do it for you. And we have the cash, we have the systems, we have a repository ready to take over, right? We've been linking it up now for weeks, clearing out everything that gets in the way. There's been lots more stuff I could sit here and talk like an auctioneer till midnight and not be done telling you all the stuff that we cleaned out. All kinds of control mechanisms and tied to agencies and DARPA and this people and those people. But we've got that. We've got you. You know, they finally came to the realization the other day. We have life force enforcement. Those are people that live here, folks that live here, right? That are also fighting to get you off their planet because they don't like you either, right?
With superior weapon technology and big numbers.
We have the council. We have the enforcer here, right? And his fleet. And we have the 99%.
Yeah. And
so they can make you wear masks and do this and do that. But it still is not going to achieve an objective that's going to actually be fruitful for what they want, which is total control. And the area 001, you know, imagine, where are you from? Oh, I'm from 0002. How are you? Oh, I'm from 0010.
Sounds like the Hunger Games, right? Everybody's from a sector, and you know, one will be very profitable and one will be poor and things like that. That's how they designate it.
Well, all I'm going to say is that we're human, right? We're amazing people. We're creators. Your thoughts matter. You know, your feelings matter. You know, please try to take these assemblies very seriously. It's going to be a bumpy ride for the next month or so, and we're going to make it. But please.
So the People's Assemblies are really organized and gaining in strength every day, as well as every other aspect of what we've been working on. Everything is getting stronger all the time while they're getting weaker. So now the end goal for them, if they won, if it was even possible, they'd have absolute control of nothing because they'd end up destroying everything. But even
And they're
that's
okay
not
with
possible.
that.
They're okay with that. They're okay
Yeah,
with
if they can't control us, they want us dead. And then they figure that some race somewhere will come in with, a recreation of humanity 8.0, which will be more controllable than we are.
Right. Great plan.
That's why they destroy this place every couple thousand years,
Yep. Yep.
It's because we are so resourceful. Our bodies adapt, we change, we overcome, and it happens every single time. And that's why every couple thousand years there's a big flood, or there's a this, there's a that. But again, all that takes technology, right?
Well, I think it's a pretty amazing thing, very encouraging if we're degenerating less already just from the moves that you made. That means even people who, sometimes people start to act like they're old because they feel older, right? And like, when they're young, 65, 70 is really young when you don't have a limit on how long your life needs to be, which means, it's time to dig deep to kind of stand up against this and see what you can do. Put it to the test, right?
Yep. So we'll keep continuously monitoring that. We'll keep you updated on that. We'll keep you updated if there's anything urgent you need to know about what these governess people, they call them the governess, right? That's what they are. The governesses have a governess as well that they're listening to, that are making ridiculous decisions like, let's create an electromagnetic field with a low frequency, which causes dread and fear and sadness on planet Earth. And that will get the bonds cashed.
Yeah. That makes
that's
sense.
The leaders. Really okay. That's the governesses of the governments who then tend to govern us, right? That's what they said today, right? That was the big plan, right? And then they had some, like I said, some other metals. They tried that afterwards. That was fun. Not really so much so, but we're running constant surveillance right now because we don't know what to expect. And we don't know where everything is. And we don't know all the stuff that they've been given or whatnot, right?
And we're on the attack. We're on the attack right now, which is a marked shift. We've always been on the defense. Now we're actively looking and taking steps forward, right? I mean, we've always been taking steps forward, but big steps, from all the different moves.
Before it gets too far.
Yeah, which is now. I mean, really, it's a window now, especially because they're trying to implement their next phase on January 4th, which will be,
Oh, is that the next one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be like, I think their goal is like, really violent, like beheadings in the street and chaos, right?
Well, that's only if you can control people. People are not in general those people. So unless you could actually activate something that makes them think differently, right? Go out and do this, and you think it's your own thought, right? Like it'll save your job. It'll do this for you. It'll do that for you, right? Or whatever, right? Or make those people pay, you think you're having your own thoughts and it becomes so overwhelming, now before you know it, you're out doing like you said, right?
It's like Gollum. You're just always thinking
AI generated interferons.
Interferons. I can't believe that's a real thing.
That's a thing.
That is one thing they could do as brand. I tell you what, it's excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is really, really exciting. I'm excited to, everyone, you can go check out gprc.global. I put it in the corner here so I wouldn't forget. But I would take you to the site, but I've had some issues with the internet. And I don't want to cause any problems. But you can go check out the site, and that site will be adding different features. You'll have the new lifeforce.global that should be connected here. I think sometime it might be connected already, but I'll find out here shortly. And so will you. So just pay attention to that. And listen, if you go to the website and there's something there that you don't, that you catch that we made a mistake or that we could do better, you are more than welcome to bring those suggestions to us in a very loving and kind way, because if you come at us the wrong way, we're going to ignore it, because we have plenty of people who have hate to spew, right? If you're actually about the mission, if you're actually, really about the mission, you are not wasting your time vying for control of an assembly or your house or things like that. You are focused on the mission, the many, many problems that we face together, and ways to change that. And when you do that, you're willing to be humble and you're still able to be confident. But it takes both. It takes confident humility to change the world. And it's going to take a collaboration and cooperation with one another. Now, if we can't get along with the people from the same area we're from, we're certainly going to have a hard time making peace around the world and making these amazing, incredible changes and having an impact on it around the world. So we do encourage everyone to go check out the gprc.global, and you can get every place from there. We should have that, over the next 2 days, you'll see. I mean, I think it's actually already live now, but just in case I don't get in trouble from our guys, but you should be able to go there, and then I'll take you to, if you want to know about the archives, you can go to the archives. You want to know about lifeforce.global, you can go there, and you can go check out how to get involved with the assemblies as well. And we encourage everyone to do that and to share it. And we're mostly prepared.
We have a public service announcement. It is Thanksgiving in the US, right? Make sure everybody wears 2 masks plus pantyhose, right? Sit 6 feet apart. If you get too drunk and you tend to fall over on the person sitting next to you at the table, immediately remove this person and put them in the bathroom, right? This is probably Dr. Fauci's things that are going to come out for the next couple of days.
Fauci.
Yeah.
Fake energy.
Yeah. Mask your turkey.
Mask the turkey, definitely, because you don't know.
The turkey, the dog, the kids, everyone.
More masks, more better.
If you have a blow up turkey in your front yard or Santa Claus that you're going to put out there this weekend, mask that too. You never know. Air could come out.
We had these great videos there on the Speak Project, and everybody who knows us from the Speak Project, right? Sovereign People of Earth Acting Knowledgeably. They took down all of our stuff based on they didn't really give us a reason.
Right. They took down Speak Project this week. Yeah,
that was really that was 4 years of work and a lot of videos there. But fortunately, we have most of those videos backed up. If anybody has some of those things that they feel like we need, please let me know. You can always hit me up at tank@unitednetwork.news. But can
you believe it? What a badge of honor. What a gift. I'm thankful.
Yeah. We had a moment
officially been fully banned, not striked, banned from YouTube.
Stay tuned though. What we're gonna do is we start grabbing some other people that have been banned, and then we'll have a special surprise. We're gonna be banned together. So I am so grateful to them for taking our website down, because we had incredible progress. We made incredible progress because of it. So I love when they do things like that, because it always encourages our teams to get creative. So that's gonna be awesome. It's a big surprise coming up. Probably by next week we'll be able to talk about it. Maybe 2 weeks, but I think next week.
All right.
All right. Anything else, Miss Possible? Miss Possible?
I think that's about all I could remember and get out in less than an hour. How's that? Or 2 hours?
Well, I think 2 hours of melting.
2 hours, man. That was 2 hours of talking. I need water.
All right, everybody, stay tuned. We are going to talk about this whole week in the news. We will revisit all of these things that Kim just talked about, because I just feel that they need repeating and clarification, and we'll add to them in sound bites for anybody who was tuned into what she was just saying. So please stay tuned, and let's go change the world.
Have a great night and have a happy holiday if you're in America. Bye.
Hi, everybody.